Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Trash Talk. I'm here with a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up? I'm Willie.
Well, just diving straight into it with my guests and when they come on the podcast, I always like to start like right at the beginning of the YouTube journey. So for you, what did the beginning of your YouTube journey look like, and how did you get involved with doing YouTube and stuff like that?
Um, well, shoot. I mean, I've been making YouTube videos like forever. Like it was like
Yeah.
2007, and I was like a little kid, and I was uploading like my flip books on like I'd write on post-it notes to YouTube. So it's
Mhm.
like I don't know. I've always loved it. Always thought it was a really cool medium in terms of just being able to upload your own sort of TV shows or opinions or whatever
Mhm.
on the internet. But when it comes to like commentary, it really started in 2017.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were around back then, were you?
Yeah. I've been around since 2016.
Yeah, yeah. So at the time, it was like kind of the big rising stars were like Imallexx and Wild Spartans
Yep.
and that sort of group. And I felt like the content was really lame. Like I felt like or like Kavos too, and I felt like the content was like really pearl clutchy. It wasn't
Mhm.
very accurate. Like a lot of it was just like really poor reporting. And then
Yeah.
they repeat themselves like over and over again. If you watch any of those old videos, like even Leafy videos, they would just repeat themselves at nauseum. So I wanted to come in because I felt like I could just do it better. I felt like I could make videos that were entertaining first and
Mhm.
foremost, and then accurate, and then that were a lot more snappy. And that's
Yeah.
sort of the goal like I had when coming into it.
Well, like you said that you've been doing YouTube for like a very long time, right? You said like since like 2007, right? So like
Yeah, I mean,
you've
I
sort of
wasn't
grown up with
doing it like in the same extent of like you're
Mhm.
trying to make a career out of it because people
Yeah.
didn't think that was possible at all. Like, right? Like that wasn't something like I thought was even like a possibility until like 2018 or 19.
Mhm. Well, yeah. So like with like doing YouTube like in some shape or form for so long, how have you grown with the platform, right? Because like a lot of people put like a lot of like time and dedication into it, right? They sacrifice stuff, and of course, like you said there, right? Not everybody, and especially like back then, it sounded really crazy to think that like YouTube would be a career. You could make money off it. You could do anything like that, right? It was genuinely just like a video sharing platform, right? Uploading memes, uploading a couple of videos that you worked on, usually like anywhere between like a minute long. It was almost like a Vine, TikTok type of platform right at the beginning.
Yeah,
Rather
like it
than
was literally just yeah, YouTube back then was straight up like it was just like a novelty, you know? Like
yeah,
there were people that I'm sure made money where they would like sell t-shirts or something. Like I'm sure like Shane Dawson back in the day or like the super top people like I forget her name. Um she's the lady with the two dogs that was sort of like a Shane Dawson alternative.
yeah,
Right? I'm sure
yeah,
she made money or Smosh or whatever, but for the most part, it was just literally like people uploading and talking to the camera or people doing their stupid skit or people uploading their talent show or wedding videos.
mhm,
Like it really was not like it was not something you thought of like, oh, I'm gonna upload and get ads. Like even in 2013, when the ad program I think was like first rolled out, it was like a
mhm.
really select few channels, and I doubt they made much money. You know, even
Yeah.
looking at like 2016, like the top guys made a lot of money, but for the most part, there was a lot of people that weren't really making anything.
Well, yeah, definitely. Like if you look at YouTube now, even very small channels like people with, I'm not saying like 10K is bad or whatever, right? 10K subscribers, but like
Hmm.
even smaller channels with that can make like a pretty good like side living, right? Of like just a
Well,
bit of
shoot,
extra
dude, people.
income, whatever.
Yeah, people. I was just talking to like Nick Diorio or whatever, and he was and he talks about like live streaming, and I think he streams to like 2 to 3 thousand viewers, which is a hella good live stream. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that stream to between 1 and 3,000 viewers, right? Dude, they're all making more money than me. It was crazy. It was really impressive to see like how the space has grown, and now there's like such thing as like a middle class creator, which I think is really cool and probably the reason why I feel like YouTube is like the best form of social media at the moment because it's like actually feasible to
Yeah.
for like a regular person to go out and like make a career there.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a lot more attainable. Like I think a great example of that is maybe a bit on the higher end is like some ordinary gamers, right? Who has like an actual in real life job, right? Has his whole in
Hmm.
real life. but he also has YouTube, right? And he makes it work. And he's just an ordinary guy who just wants to do YouTube, right? And that's realistically like a lot more feasible and available for the average person, right? You don't have to have like 1 million subscribers anymore to be able to do YouTube to like a good extent. You can have like a 50,000 subscriber channel, 100,000 subscriber channel, even less, and still make a good chunk of money and still do the stuff you love and have like a community and audience there without having to be
Yeah.
like a KSI type figure or like people like Smosh.
Yeah, you don't have to be like yeah, exactly. You don't have to be like this 1% talent. Like I would actually argue, like I've talked to Muda and
Hmm.
like looking at how he operates and how he works, Muda's an absolute workhorse, right? So I would say like no matter what, Muda would be there.
Hmm.
But I'm talking about like even like a guy like me or like Act Man or whatever, like all of us were just like super regular, like Joe Schmo people. Like Act Man, like I think was telling me like he worked as a busboy or something. Like he was a dishwasher in a restaurant,
Well,
and he
yeah,
was just like talking about YouTube on the side, and then that blew up. Like it's just not. Yeah, it's cool. It's the coolest thing. I think it's
and,
great.
and and for you, how has that like worked with like your life and balancing YouTube and sort of almost growing up with it, right? And like seeing its development and change. Like, how does that work for you?
It's
Because of course you've got
it's
200,000 subscribers and stuff. Like, how has that worked?
it's true. I was the original Zoomer, dude. I was like, I think one of the first people that was like super into the social media stuff. Like it in terms of like my friends, right? I think
Yeah.
like back then, like I said, it was a novelty. So it was like something you pull up and look at for like 30 minutes or whatever, and then you just move on because there wasn't really that much like good stuff on the internet back then. It was a lot of garbage.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how it's worked. Like what do you mean in terms of
Well, well, like, how have
like
you
what?
balanced it? Like, how have you balanced YouTube and like in real life as that's grown, right? Because at the beginning, like in 2007, like you said, it was novelty, right? It was something that
Mm-hmm.
realistically, just you're uploading some funny videos you made, or like you want to show something off, or a meme or whatever. But now, like, you've got to a stage where you're making like these fully fledged videos, like pretty consistently as well for a channel with like 200,000 subscribers, right? You're putting all this effort and stuff. So, like, how have you managed to balance like in real life stuff with YouTube? Because I know a lot of people find it like a very difficult, right? The balance between it, right? They either put way too much into their like personal life and sort of neglect their channel, or they put way too much in their social media stuff and neglect their in real life stuff. How have you managed to balance it to get to like a stage where your YouTube channel's doing well, like and your like social life is running to like a good standard or whatever? Like, how have you managed to balance that?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of an interesting question. I haven't really thought about that. I would say this: when you're pursuing a hobby, unless you're one of these people where it's like you're just a mega talent and it takes off. Um,
Mhm.
if you want to pursue like make your hobby for full time, whatever it is, whether it's YouTube or maybe you're selling some product or making a game or whatever, to get there you probably have to be imbalanced. Like to
Yeah.
to take a step forward, you got to be off balance. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I think if you're trying to go full time, you probably have to go through a period where that is all you do and you're like
Yeah.
really investing to get there. Now that I'm over like 100K or what I think I just broke 200K, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's
Um
insane, man. Congrats, by the way.
yeah, I appreciate it. I would say like now it's like easier to balance than ever because when I upload a video, I'm going to get a minimum of like 100,000 views or whatever. Whereas before I'd upload and there was a chance I got 15,000 views or 20,000 views, and that was really no money. Um, so I would say like once you get there, it's easy to balance, right? You work for
Yeah.
yourself, you give your own hours. Yeah, you could put in more work or less work, you just have the freedom to do stuff, but when you're trying to get there, you have to kind of be all in.
Yeah, and like my next question sort of does revolve around like a very like similar topic of like like I said, and like we've gone over, right, like you've been in YouTube in some capacity for a while. How have you held on to motivation, right? Because I feel like a motivation is definitely like a big thing, especially at the moment. People struggle with it quite a bit, right? If it's low views that cause like lack of motivation, if it's the fact they get burnt out or whatever. How have you managed to be motivated for so long and like uploading content like pretty consistently?
Honestly, it's just because I love it, dude. Like,
Yeah.
shit, man. If I was uploading to no views, I'd still be uploading videos, man. I just fucking love this shit. It's like I was uploading back in 2007 because I thought it was really cool and unique and fun. I was uploading in 2017 to nobody on this same channel. You could go watch those fucking videos. They're terrible because I thought it was really unique and fun. And it's like guess what? I'll be 80 years old probably. I'll still think this shit's really unique and fun. And maybe I've fallen off and then restarted my career 30 different times. I'm still going to be doing it because I just really enjoy this. So motivation, I don't think has been like a problem in terms of in like the long term. There are periods where it's like, fuck, I'm just not feeling this
Yeah.
video or this topic, or I'm not, man, working today just seems like extra hard or whatever. That shit, like you're gonna have in any fucking job. Like I've
Oh
worked
yeah,
a
definitely.
million fucking blue collar jobs, like all the way up until last year, right? So I would say like when it, you have to be in a routine. Like when I was fucking broke and I had to work at the fucking factory. It's like, guess what? Just because I wasn't feeling like going to work today, you still have to show up and go to work. It's
Well,
sort of the same
well,
thing
yeah,
with
yeah.
YouTube. You gotta
Well, like,
treat it the same.
and I guess with YouTube and like your motivation, right? Like it probably helps the fact that you're not doing it from like a almost like your motivation stems from the fact that you just genuinely enjoy doing it. Like even if it was just a hobby and it still is a hobby or whatever, you would still enjoy doing it. Like you said, right? You'd enjoy still posting to like no viewers because you're passionate about it, right? Where a lot
Yeah,
of
have you
people as
ever
well.
seen the Dolph Ziggler like wrestling promo
Yeah, 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 yeah.
where he's like I love this thing, but sometimes it feels like it doesn't love me back.
Yeah.
It was something like that. Like there's times where I felt that where I was like, shit, dude, I fucking love this. And it clearly is not loving me back at the moment. I've been trying to go full time for like 3 years now. Haven't been able to make it happen. I wish I could quit, but I just can't. Like I literally just
Yeah.
cannot do it. That's
But
how
like
it felt.
I guess with your motivation as well, right? Like a lot of people stand with YouTubers like they're motivated by views or money or the numbers from it. But you
Hmm.
seem very much like a person that's motivated by it because you enjoy doing it, rather than the fact of like some reward you get out of it, right? Like the money and all that's a great bonus, right? Something that you can do full time or whatever. But like your passion and your motivation seems to stem from the fact you genuinely enjoy posting instead of like I know a lot of commentary YouTubers, especially now, a lot of their motivation stems from the fact of this is gonna get me lots of views, lots of money. That's why I want to do it, but yours definitely stems from more the fact of like a passion with like the fact that you earning money and getting the views is like an extra added bonus where you can like dedicate more time to it.
Yeah, the money is great because like the more money you get, obviously the more security you have in life, and that's fucking nice. And the other part of it too is like the more money you get, the better your videos are going to be. Because instead of like feeling like you're working another job and trying to do YouTube, you can just focus towards it. So it's like money is part of it. Money's amazing when
Mhm.
it starts to come in, but it's like, yeah, I would be doing this no matter what. Like
Yeah,
this is just something I really fucking enjoy. And
and I
I
feel like
don't see myself ever stopping. Like people are like, Keen,
yeah.
you're old, you're 40 years old and you haven't retired. It's like, bro, I'm not retiring. I will be 80. I'll still be uploading. I'm gonna be like PewDiePie, dude. I'll have 10 children. It is starving in the backgrounds of my videos, dude. I'll still be uploading.
Well, like I feel like that's the best outlet to have, right? It's a pretty positive outlook of the fact of like even if like the views are lower, I'm still going to enjoy doing what I do because I feel like a lot of people do get caught up on the views, right? Especially smaller content creators. That's like a massive driving force, right? Is like getting views or whatever, and people get caught up on it, and it's pretty depressing, right? Well, you seem to have
Well,
like way more
you
of a
say it's
positive outlook on
depressing.
that.
I don't necessarily think that. Like if there's people that view YouTube as like a business opportunity and they're into it because they do like money,
Yeah,
that's fine. It's just you gotta like, for instance, if you're in like like if you're in the Fortnite space and you're in it for money, like I don't think that's an issue. If you're in commentary and you're in it for money, I don't think that's an issue as long as you have uh some sort of line or like ethics code, because in commentary you're
yeah,
talking about like you're dealing with people's lives, right? So if some allegation comes out and it's not properly vetted and you're just automatically jumping on the allegations and jumping straight towards like, this guy's a pedophile or this guy's guilty or
yeah.
whatever. This is not relating to anything at the moment. This is just general shit that has popped up and has been wrong, whether it's like the Slazo case or, Quite was another one of those stories,
Yeah.
right? Um, well, then that's kind of slimy because you're doing it if you're doing that because you want to be the first one out and get views instead of actually looking through all the information first. Well, then now you're fucking with those people. Like you aren't
Yeah.
upholding like you aren't like living by any like sort of like ethical code when it comes to reporting on information,
Well, yeah.
which I
That's
think
why
is
like
important.
well,
Whether
yeah.
whether you're in it for money or not, you need to have that.
Yeah, especially when it comes to like a commentator, or like when it comes to like a maybe a different genre, I feel like different stuff applies, but especially commentary, right?
Hmm.
People look towards that creator for not only news, but they also sort of take their word because they think that they can trust them just due to what they do, how they handle stuff, or whatever. So when
Exactly.
you see a lot of these commentators messing up these
Like yeah.
allegations,
Oh,
situations,
sorry.
you
My
know,
Discord cuts out sometimes. Sorry if I talked over you there for a minute.
no, no, it's all good, man. No need to apologize. But like for like these like content creators, like when you're a viewer and looking at these people, you expect them to get this information right because they're almost seen as like a news reporter, right, or a news source or whatever, a source that you can like relate to and respond to, like you would with like a news, like just a regular news channel, right? That's how a lot of people look at
Yeah.
commentators. So when you mess up the information, that's really bad, and like you need to have that not only like morals and ethics there, but you also need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that goes beyond like necessarily just so to me, like, yeah, exactly. Like you're hitting it right on the head. Like, I don't care if somebody's in it for money or not. I'm not really going to judge somebody on there. To me, it's like their quality of work, right? If your
Mhm.
quality of work is high and you're in it for the money, well, that's okay. If your quality of work is really low, but you love your job, well, then that's still not okay because you're doing a shit job. So
Yeah,
to me, doing it either like if you're in it because you love it, that probably means you're going to put in better work, but that's not the end all be all.
yeah. Like I feel like there's a lot more to it, right? Like if you're in it for the money, like the only thing I would say, right, or like it just even views, right, is that if that dips, you're gonna be, I think, a little bit more depressed in that sense of like the fact that like okay, your views are lower, whatever, your motivation's probably gonna be lower if that's what you're in it for. Where if you're
Hmm.
in it for the fact that you enjoy it and you enjoy doing it, if that lowers, you're still gonna have the same amount of passion, right? Well, like for people that are in it for the views and the money, that passion will like definitely can dip if like the views and money are lower. And I'm not saying that is like a thing exclusive to people that are in it for that. Like I know definitely like firsthand, like when views are lower, like you know your motivation is lower because that is also a bit of a driving force for people that are even just passionate about doing YouTube just in general.
Hmm.
Um, but there is definitely way more to it than you know being money driven, view driven, and stuff like that. Like morals play like a very big side of it, especially like we said with commentary, right? Like when you're a commentator, that's like you know one of your main priorities is you know getting the information correct, like having a good moral code, because otherwise you get like very like situations like you know. Imallexx is a great example recently, right? Where
Yeah.
like you know Slazer or whatever, all that sort of stuff quiet and all those other situations, right? Where you know your morals are skewed, people take your word for it when your word is incorrect, and that's I feel like that's a bigger issue of commentary as a whole. Is a lot of people not doing their research and not doing their videos correctly. So like in like for you, how long does it take for you to do like research and stuff like fact checking, make sure that like you're putting out the correct information?
Well, that's going to depend on the kind of video that I'm making.
Hmm.
Um, I've been covering a lot of live streamers over the past year or so.
Yeah,
Uh, so kind of the key difference between me and I feel like a lot of other people that are just more busy or maybe they work another job or whatever is I will sit down and I will watch all the live streams. Like
yeah,
I'll sit down, I'll watch 30 or 40 hours worth of live streams. So that way, like, there is no like, oh, I'm getting this clip secondhand. There's no way it's out of context. There's no way that I'm missing something. Like that way, I'm showing people new stuff when they go to watch the videos that
yeah.
they probably haven't seen before.
Well, like I guess a benefit of doing that as well is like I know a lot of people, and this isn't like a criticism that people like to do this by the way, but like a lot of people will also have like loads of people that they've hired as well to go for clips, search for clips, like do that bit
Hmm.
for them instead of them doing it. So like, do you think that adds to like your content and like sifting through because you know firsthand that like you can trust yourself on that because you know you're not relying on anybody else to you know what like 40 hours of streams or whatever you're having to do for that specific video, right? You're doing it yourself. So, you know, like it only comes back to you if that's wrong, right? It doesn't come back to a team or whatever. That comes back to you. So I guess like you put way more trust in yourself to be able to go through that. So you're coming through it because at the end of the day, where people have like people that have been hired or whatever, things can go wrong or whatever. You aren't seeing that firsthand. Where you're seeing that firsthand, right? You're the one sitting there going through the information, sifting through what you need to find. Whereas when you've got a team, you're seeing the stuff that everyone else has sifted through and not seeing the full context of that. So, like, do you think that enhances what you do with your videos because you're the one seeing all that stuff firsthand instead of like having people do it for you?
It's funny you say that because I've just gone through a phase of trying to hire and work with people.
Hmm.
And a lot of commentators do this, right? Especially the bigger ones.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
some of these people do solid research, but I feel like the problem I always have is all they're getting is like clips posted to Twitter and Reddit. Like they aren't
yeah.
really going and watching the actual live streams. And so I've had trouble taking like I never want a script. I always just want research and like to get a ground and then I build off of that. But
Hmm.
I've been having trouble finding people that I think really are able to like willing to put in the effort to actually watch all that content. Does that make sense?
No, no, definitely, right? Because like you
So
want somebody that
so
would do the
that
same as you.
yeah, and it's not that like for instance, one of the guys that I mean he charged a lot of money for it, but he did a good job was Doomer Media. Did a good job because he'd actually sit there and watch everything. But
Hmm.
kind of the problem like with I've had working with him is simply he just goes rogue sometimes where he just won't get back to you for like a few weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, all right, hopefully he comes back and at some point, like I don't know. And it's because the work's really fucking boring. Like sitting there and watching these live streams, like most of the time nothing is happening. Think about all the live streams, like the most exciting part is getting clipped to Twitter. So it makes sense that a lot of people are just like using that as like the easy route or whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely, and like it's also hard as a creator, right, to sort of give over the reins to somebody else to do stuff. So I know
Hmm.
personally, right, I really struggle with that, right, giving somebody else, even if it's like a co-host on like this podcast or whatever, right, giving over the podcast or giving over my project to anybody else to do, it can be difficult, right, because you as the creator, that's your project. Like this might sound cringe, but that's your baby in that sense. If that's the thing you're creating, that's the thing you're
Yeah.
working on. Handing over the reins to somebody else, look, even if you're paying them or you think you can trust them or whatever, at the end of the day, they're not you, right? You want them to have the same morals of you, like, do the same things that you would do in that situation. But because they're a person, right, they're an individual. That's not going to always happen, and it can be definitely difficult doing that. And especially as a commentator, right, when like we've said and like we've specified about how factually correct it needs to be, right, when you're putting this out, it can definitely be difficult handling it to someone else, right, and not doing it yourself.
Right. So like that's how I feel with a lot of it too is like the full like when people are paid for script writing, I'm always like, but how do you even like how is this person supposed to know what you're going to say? Like I feel like it has to be
Yeah.
my words, like after I look at all the information, you know? Or like the other thing is like editing. I know
Mhm.
it's like I don't have the most complicated edited videos by any means, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I want it to be paced exactly how I want it to be. Like I could just there's probably a million people that could do it. I just cannot give that shit up. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I need to do it.
Well, that's the thing that you want to do, right? Like that's when you're making a video, you know how exactly you want every frame, everything to be, right? So when you've got a video out there, right, and somebody else could do it completely different, right? You don't want it done completely different or to like a maybe even like a higher standard or a quote unquote higher standard, right? Because you know what you want to do, you've got your own style, you've got your own way of doing things. So like I definitely feel like when handing off projects, it can be very difficult, right? Because they do things that you wouldn't personally do, right? They make decisions that you personally wouldn't do, right? Unless you micromanage, you can't really control that. So like especially with commentary, I think you almost get a benefit of like sitting there and putting in probably like a bit more effort than like hiring someone because you get to like tailor it to what you want. And I think that's at the end of the day what YouTube originally was about, right? Is executing your vision of something rather than it being like processed through like loads of people, right? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing if you've got like
Mhm.
employees or whatever, like a channel like Mr. Beast or whatever, right? Where you need that. But like it definitely feels more like personal, right? You get more personal experience from a creator who is doing like a lot of that themselves.
So I agree 100%, but I also think part of it is I also like I feel like we aren't giving enough credit when it comes to the people that want to grow past that, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way cuz that's how I've always been and that's just how I operate, but when people want to
Mhm.
grow, like if you want to make a lot of money and grow really big and grow your brand really big, you have to hire people to streamline the process. You
Yeah.
have to. And I think there's something really important about that because obviously, like the bigger, I don't know, like the bigger, like pretend Drama Alert was still around, just because that's what's popping in my head. The big,
Mhm.
like Drama Alert was a big brand. The more people they hire, the more stories they cover, the more they do. obviously that's going to feed more into the commentary community, right? Like a rising tide, or what is it? A rising tide raises all ships or something like that.
Yeah.
The phrase goes like, so you need people to grow your brand. You need the mega stars in your brand that are willing to build like big giant conglomerate channels. Because that does help out the people that don't necessarily want to build to that level and just want to do their
Yeah.
own thing.
I think it's also a thing with that is like getting in the right headspace, right? Because like for so long, like a lot of people will do that on their own, right? Like their projects will be theirs and theirs alone, right? So you've sort of gotten in the headspace of like, okay, right, to like grow my business, grow my brand, grow my career, I've got to sort of like hand it off to people in certain aspects, right? So I can actually grow, I can get bigger, I can do more things, and I can grow what I've been creating, right? But like I think that's difficult for a lot of content creators. Again, I'm gonna like just sort of tie it back to commentary, especially within commentary, right? Because commentary is your personal feelings a lot of the time, your opinions. It's very opinionated. So
Mhm.
handing stuff off to people can be definitely like a very difficult thing. But as you said, right, if you want to grow like to a bigger
Well, there's
size,
ways to do it
you need
without
to hand off.
handing off your opinion, though.
Mhm.
Like, you could still be your opinion. It could just be streamlining, like, taking notes for
Yeah,
XYZ videos and getting timestamp. Like, there's or it could be, like, your editor, right? Like, so there's ways to stream or your thumbnail guy, right? It doesn't have to you could still be your opinions, but it depends on how you want to, grow your brand.
yeah. Like I feel like there are like creators that hand off like a quite like an extensive range of the stuff they would usually do, right? So like you brought up like thumbnail editing, script writing, or whatever.
Mhm.
Well,
Who
like
would be, like, an example, though, in the commentary space?
I know, like, I don't know how much he hands off, but I know, of course, like Tom. But like when I spoke to him when he came on this podcast, he spoke about like his editors. He's got people that help him out like quite extensively for his videos as well, right?
Oh, okay.
Um, so like I guess with that, right? Like how would you like how do you handle that, right? Because like personally for me, right, like you would lose a lot of the like individuality of that content, right? Because you're handing it off to so many people. Like I can definitely see why people
So
do it.
so
Like
by
with
Tom was I'm guessing he's talking about, like, his main channel then, right?
yeah, yeah, his main channel.
Okay.
With as far as I'm aware, with like his other content, that's like all him, right? That isn't like he doesn't have a full team or whatever. But
Mhm.
like for you, like how would you feel if you had to hand off like a lot of the stuff or whatever? Like how do you feel with that process? Because I think you do lose that personality, individuality there, right? Because you're handing it off to so many people. And this isn't a criticism by any means, right, to those people, because those videos take a lot of effort, a lot of time that realistically them on their own don't have if they want to post to a consistent level. And like you said about growing businesses, whatever, right? Tom wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
post weekly or monthly or however he does it, right? If he was doing it on his own, he just wouldn't do. But like you personally, if you were put in that position, is that something that you would like get on with and you would enjoy or whatever? Or are you a creator that enjoys having like a bit more control?
So, yeah, I mean, I don't see myself at any point like to me, I just fucking I'm just into like I just want to do my own thing. Like to me, my perfect little world, dude, is I have X amount of dollars coming in on like Patreon or some shit every month, and then I could
Mhm.
just only work on the videos I want to make, and maybe I upload one video a month or one video
Yeah,
every other, or like maybe two videos a month or whatever the point is. But the point is, I only want to be able to upload like the videos I think are worth talking about and just like make
yeah,
them fucking masterpieces, right? So I mean, to me, like my ideal world isn't like running like the super news channel or anything like that.
yeah.
I just want to be able to do my own thing.
Well, like I only ask about like handing stuff off and like this whole editing thing, right? Because like I feel like we're in an era of YouTube, right? Where like
Mhm.
people like Mr. Beast, like it is very much like a almost like a TV schedule, right? Like look at someone like
Yeah,
a
it's like
big channel,
it's like
right? Like
corporatized, right?
yeah, yeah, right. Like there's massive teams, or whatever, and it's definitely going that way, and it's not a bad thing going that way, right? Because there's definitely a mix of creators doing their own
Well,
thing,
what
like
is the
creators with
reason
big
it's
brands.
going that way though?
Well, like it's of course like I feel like a big thing, right? Is because not only attention span, right? Fucking like you need to stay on top, right? Posting content consistently, right? Because people's attention span is completely shot, right? If you're not posting content consistently, there's enough there, right? People lose
No, no,
interest
no,
in
no, no.
creating.
It's not about attention span. It's about because there's those that exist because there's crazy money in it. And there's
Yeah,
crazy money in it is because more people are watching this than cable. TV's like
yeah,
dying. The only thing carrying TV right now is sports. And even like a bunch of sports is like probably going to start handing over to certain streaming services. Like
Well,
I know
yeah,
Hulu's got some of it. I know ESPN's got their own thing. I know like Monday Night Raw is going to like Netflix or some shit, right? Like they signed over to Peacock for some of their stuff. So the reason why like those people exist, it's just because that's where money is and that's where TV's going. So there's going to be more shit. Like that's a byproduct of like you know how I was saying like YouTube now has like a middle class. There's now such thing
yeah.
as like a social media middle class. Well, the only reason that exists is because there's a social media upper class, right? So as more money pours in, you are going to have like much more corporatized, much more investor based shows and channels pop up.
Definitely, like, and it's interesting you bring that up, right? Because like I feel like recently there's been like lots of examples of this, right? Like I know the British like group, the Sidemen, right? They did their own like TV show, right? Like called
Yeah, they're like a whole thing. It's
whatever
crazy.
inside. Yeah, they've got their own thing going on, and like you know, there's lots of like football charity matches with YouTubers and sports events on YouTube and other social media platforms. How do you think, like, of course, like the way YouTube's going with these bigger channels, how do you think that affects people within commentary, right? Do you think that there's a change there that could possibly happen, or do you think commentary's that thing, right, where it doesn't necessarily need that? Like that change wouldn't really occur within, because I feel like it's a really interesting concept to think about, right? Of like a commentary channel like Dramalert, right? Dramalut's a really good example of this, right? Dramalert becoming like a big brand in the sense of like they've got a team or whatever, that they've got all these people on board, right? It's become like a very commercialized thing. Like, could you see that with commentary, or is commentary a genre where that stuff
Well,
doesn't
would
really apply?
Philip DeFranco's probably like the best example of that.
Hmm.
Um, but he covers a lot of real news too. So
Yeah.
like, all right, for instance, commentary I feel like is behind the bell curve on a lot of shit. And I
Hmm.
think part of that has to do with the topics we cover.
Yeah.
They're a little more edgy and that puts off a lot of advertisers. I guarantee like commentary CPM is way lower than, you know, Jake Paul's channel or like any of these
Yeah.
other YouTube channels or like genres, right? Um, and then I would say we also went through like a dark ages, like in
Yeah.
commentary. Like the whole brand died. Like 2 years ago, like we were all talking about how commentary was dead.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Completely.
like yeah, like because remember we had like Drama Alert and Leafy is here and iDubbbz and like the content cops and it was like there was like Leafy was bigger than PewDiePie for like a few months there. He was pulling more views than PewDiePie, which was like 100 million views a month. Which obviously nowadays that's fucking like not that impressive, but back then that was like super rare. And
Yeah.
like even PewDiePie was making commentary videos at the time. And then there was the adpocalypse. Leafy would get banned. iDubbbz would change his content. Filthy Frank would retire and go do music. Drama Alert, because of the AdSense thing, would kind of slowly fall off. And now commentary, there was a while where it was like completely upended because all of these streamers would talk about any sort of breaking drama going on. And then their editor would clip it and upload it to YouTube right away. Well, the average fucking guy can't compete with that. That's like the
Yeah.
quickest around for a video ever. This guy reacts to it as it's happening on live stream, and then his editor turns it into a whole video. Like
Yeah.
it's impossible to beat. So there was a while where I think the genre lost its footing a little bit and was had to figure itself out. But now we're back. Tom's really carrying the whole brand, I think, with between Tom Dark and his main channel. And it's kind of settled into this niche where it's sort of almost like you got like guys like Bungie that are almost doing like a stand-up routine while they're talking about the fucking whatever the drama is, and then you got guys like me or Tom or Jay Aubrey or whatever his name is doing
Mhm.
like longer form documentaries or like retrospectives or deep dives on it.
Yeah.
So I think so to answer your question in sort of a long way or like in short way,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say that it could reach that point eventually. We're a long ways off because we've had like a pretty troubled history where we almost like fell out of relevance completely.
Yeah, definitely. And like I feel like even if we like commentary did reach that, right? Like I feel like commentary is a genre where like it doesn't need to reach that, right? Like I feel like individual creators, like you said about like streamers like live reacting to stuff, right? Them getting clipped and put onto YouTube, right? That's really
Mhm.
our equivalent of these like big brands, right? Because like that's their whole system, right? Sitting there,
Yeah.
react to it live, it gets clipped up or whatever, posted. And like I feel realistically that's the furthest extent it would go to, unless there's like, you know, drama or something like that. Because like you mentioned, right, like back at the beginning about like we cover like a lot more maybe edgier stuff that like people are afraid to touch, where it's like allegation based, right? That's like commentary's bread and butter. Allegation based, like serious topics and stuff like that. Like I feel like a lot of commentary can just exist how it always has, is that like one guy or a couple of guys, people just in general reacting to stuff, making like documentaries or whatever and covering it, where you don't need that massive team and that massive thing, like we said, like the Sidemen, Mr. Beast, and people like this, right? And I find it interesting because I don't think you can find another genre on YouTube where like you don't need that big like commercialization of stuff.
No, you need some. Yeah, I would agree. Like, part of me does wonder, like, how big could you really grow it? Like, it probably can only cap out at like a guy like Hassan or like Ludwig or some shit, like uploading their stream clips on drama or like doing his mogul mail thing, you
Yeah,
know?
because like
Because I think the the bread and butter of commentary is like this thing happened. What is like my favorite guy's opinion on this thing?
yeah, because like at that point, like if you get any bigger, right, you're just a news guy, right? You're just basically like an extension of like a
You're
news
just Philip
channel on the
DeFranco,
final cable.
you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
you're Philip DeFranco, or you're Fox News, right? Like
Yeah.
you're nothing else apart from that, and that's where commentary, right, like individuality and having your opinions, comedy, right? That's where it really thrives. That's like a big draw, right? It's because you can talk about anything, you can do really anything within your own little niche, right? Well, like if you get any bigger than that, it loses its personality, and it just does become like the Sun newspaper, right? Fox News, stuff like that, right? Where it just loses all its individuality. So like to a certain extent, I don't think it can get bigger than, like you said, right, like Mogul Mail and like Hassan and all these other streamers, right? Like Pyro Live or whatever.
Yeah, I think it could get a lot bigger, like in terms of you could probably have some guys with over like 10 million subs.
Yeah,
But I don't, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it could get like to Mr. Beast level.
yeah, yeah. I think it would be like ridiculous if it did, right? I think that would just like sort of lose the whole point of commentary, right? And I also think like you said, right, with its reputation and like the dark ages of commentary and all that sort of stuff. So people's perception of commentary, like a lot of people's perception, is really skewed. So like I think it is always going to be a bit handicapped in the fact of like
What do
how
you
big
mean
it
by
can grow.
skewed?
Like a lot of people think of commentators, like just like the whole commentary community, as a bit more like dirty, scummy people that sort of like leech off of dramas and situations rather than do like deep dives, right? But like the biggest content creators at the moment with commentary are like the documentary YouTubers, right? That are sitting there doing like hours of research, putting together like a video where they like document this, so like the whole life of Logan Paul, whatever, something like that, right? So some like
Hmm.
take a basic topic like that. But like a lot of people's perception is that like leafy era, right? Where like people are sitting there like being like overly edgy, saying things like that, right? So like people's
I
perception
mean
is
that exists, and there is a lot of influence because of that era. Like, I'm heavily
yeah,
influenced from that era. I would say
mhm,
like the I feel like the people being like, oh, they're just like what's the word? Like, oh, phrase did you use? Did you say drama farming or whatever, or leeching?
yeah, leeching,
It's like, to a degree, it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, we are. Like, we're talking about this internet drama because we think it's funny. We don't think it's that serious.
yeah,
It's just, this is something online. Here's a bunch of jokes about it. And it is not
yeah,
for
yeah,
everybody. It's like, but the point is, like, it's fun. Like, this is why people talk about it. This is why people watch
yeah,
it. It's because it's fun. And if it's not for you, that's completely okay. I do think that most commentators, despite the edgy jokes, they actually deliver the information, I think, in a very fair way. Usually they're almost, like, there's commentators that for sure get things wrong, but when it comes
mhm,
to like the top guys, they're pretty factually correct when they report the story.
yeah. Like
So you could
because I feel like
disagree with their opinions and you can not like their jokes, but
yeah.
the information there is usually pretty good.
Well, because like, I feel like a lot, especially like the top commentators, like know that like there will be like a large audience that like that's how they get their information, right? Instead of like looking like at a news source or whatever, right? That's how they get their information, right? Is from that guy's video, right? So like they almost like know the responsibility of like, okay, I've got to get this right, regardless if you like you said, find their opinion correct or you agree with it, you disagree with it, right? You find the humor funny, you don't, whatever. Usually their information is pretty correct because most commentators understand that that's how a lot of people will find out about that situation or find out more about it rather than
Mhm.
like for like the older generations is like Fox News and like cable, right? Well, that's how they'd find out, right? And just like that, you've got a duty of relaying like correct information and
Yeah,
pointing
yeah,
out
and
things correctly.
I feel like where the like thing comes from of like, oh, commentators, they just get everything wrong. Like that came from like the grade A like leafy videos. Like because
Yeah,
everybody was getting shit wrong. Like you go watch like those really old Elvis the Alien videos. Like I love Elvis. Elvis makes great fucking content now, but back then it was like the bar for quality and the bar for what was good research was like basically on the floor, dude. Nobody got anything right back then. Yeah, it
yeah,
was like some of the worst videos were coming out. Like you had Drama Alert like getting major things wrong. You had Leafy getting major things wrong. The only like where the quality came in, you got Imallexx getting everything wrong, Wild Spartans getting everything wrong. Where quality came in was from the Content Cop series of
yeah.
like, hey, you can put in the research. It really isn't that hard. You just got to be willing to do it.
Yeah, like it's almost like unfortunate of how long it took for like commentary to like get that right. But like now, like you don't see that misinformation a lot anymore, right? Because like I feel like
Well, you
commentary
you
corrects
still
this
do,
stuff
but it's
really better.
just like you still do because you had like the King of Nothing video, which was like pretty wrong, and that
Yeah,
video got a ton of views. That video is like over 500,000 views, I think. But the difference is now you're going to have people call it out, whereas back in the day,
yeah.
like nobody did.
I'd also say as well with the King of Nothing stuff as well, like specifically, right? You don't see like that big of a fuck up, right, or that big like of a misinfo like dump very often, right? Like he's like a
Hmm.
one in a blue moon, right? Like he like there's probably like one big example like a month or whatever, right? Which like compared to like older commentaries, like like that's great, right? And like you said, right, there are content creators that will sit there like Nicholas Dury or whoever, right, that will call out that misinfo, correct it, like penalize the people that do that, right?
Yeah, or if
Uh,
people get something wrong, they will just update it and fix it. Like
yeah,
a great example I always point to is Critical. He gets shit wrong all the time, but if he gets it wrong and it's pointed out, he just uploads a new video correcting it. It's like that's fucking great because it's good for him because he makes money when he corrects the info. It's good for his audience because he corrects the info. It's like getting something wrong and correcting it shouldn't be seen as like this career ending thing you have to do. It should just be like a really easy, like, same way the news does it. Like, here, we're going to update this story
yeah.
and that's it. Like, no big deal. Done.
Well, like it's also a good show, right? Of commentators taking accountability, right? Because commentators are
Hmm.
like the first people that'll be there calling out people's other actions when they've messed up or whatever. If you take accountability on your own, right? Not only is it good for everyone, but it shows that like everyone else that it is easy to do, right? It is
I
easy,
agree.
and that you almost become like this is gonna sound really bad, but like almost like a role model, right? For people that are like watching of like it is easy to take accountability. You don't have to go down the route of like other content creators that get called out by commentators, right? You can have your
Yeah,
own
I
morals,
wouldn't say
whatever.
like role
Well,
model, but I'd say like you're holding yourself to like a pretty a standard that should not be seen as taboo.
yeah, because like
Because
you do
if you're around long enough, you will get something wrong. Like it's just
oh yeah, definitely.
inevitable.
Like everyone gets something wrong at some point or time. Like I think it would be naive to say that like nobody does, right? But then as well, like what comes in of that is that like of course like commentators specifically as well, they do hold influence for the people they watch, right? So seeing like a big commentator come out and say like I got this wrong or whatever, and making that quick like correction, like I think it shows that it is easier to do than like a lot of people sort of like show, right? Because like I feel like there is like going back to what you said earlier, there's almost a stigma about it coming out and saying right like I've got this wrong or whatever. Feel like people point and laugh or whatever and like see it as like a negative thing rather than a good thing. But like surely you want those people, right? Like especially with commentary, right? Like a lot of people's stuff is like pointing out the fact that like they've done something wrong and they haven't made like a proper statement about it. They've sort of ignored it, whatever. They've got something wrong and they've done the exact same thing. Well, like you want people to come out and make that statement, correct what they've done, right? Correct if it's information, correct their actions or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just good for everybody involved and reflects well, not only on commentary but just people in general.
Yeah.
Like that's
And I'd
really
say like
what you want.
when too like the other thing to add on when people like complain about the community like leeching or farming or whatever, like I
Yeah,
feel like nowadays that mostly comes from like some of the most dishonest people. It's like the people saying that are like Andrew Tate or
yeah,
Fresh and Fit or who else? It's like, it's like coming from like these sort of like dishonest figures or like Hassan. Hassan always says that about me.
yeah. like you get these people, but and like a lot of the time it's the people that are always criticized by commentary, right? They will always say that commentators are leeches, right? Because they just get covered a lot because they always mess up and they're always doing something that is
Mm-hmm.
call out worthy or needs to be like spoken about. And usually they're always the ones that say like commentators are leeches, commentators are this, commentators are that, right? Well, like I definitely feel like we're sort of like in another era, right, of like commentary where commentary is taken a little bit more seriously than it was like 2 years ago when it was dead. Right, like people are like just on a broader spectrum listening and watching commentary and like enjoying it again.
Yeah.
So like, when people like Andrew Tate, Hassan, or whatever like fuckhead says as like commentators are leeches, right, it isn't taken as seriously as like 2 years ago, right, when that was probably like the common consensus because the community was pretty much dead.
Yeah, I think the other part of it too is like the news media, I think, is seen as like an all-time like they're like just not trusted as much as they used to be. So there's more and more people looking for alternative sources of news and information, or somebody that will just report the story more towards their bias or how they like or whatever. So I think that's also a thing where you're having people that they don't trust the media, so they're coming online uh, for more what's the word, personalized, like
Yeah,
people that they could relate to more.
yeah, almost like you can trust that creator more, like because like you've seen online, especially recently with like Minecraft YouTubers or whatever, like that parasocial relationship, right? But there's also like a positive of being like a way more personal creator, right? Because you feel way more personally attached in the fact of like you feel like they're like trying to help you out. But with these big news like people, like I'm gonna use Fox News again, right? Like you almost feel like there's definitely like a hidden agenda behind a lot of the stuff they do or whatever they push out. Where with commentators, like, of course, I'm not saying that this is all commentators because there are
Yeah.
definitely commentators that do have hidden agendas, and I'm not saying that they don't. Um, but like with a lot of commentary YouTubers, they just want to relay that information. They want to like have their own personal spin, opinions on it, whatever. So you almost feel like this is way more trustworthy than like something you would get from Fox News or like another news platform because there's just so much bad press around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like,
So
I
yeah,
guess how I feel about like the YouTube stuff is like Fox's agenda is probably like very branded, right?
yeah,
Like they are the more conservative network and CNN's the more liberal one. I would say
mhm,
like probably when you're talking like watching somebody online, they they most likely aren't sitting there going like, "Oh, well, since I'm this brand, I have to have this opinion." Odds are it's like
yeah,
they just think that they're right, and they're what's it called? They're unaware of their own biases.
yeah.
Right,
Like they're
that's
not.
probably the majority of it. I doubt the people like working at Fresh and Fit. They probably have always felt like women suck, and they probably always
Yeah,
have had their same opinions on dating. Right? I don't think that's like something that they feel like they're stuck doing now. Like it's probably something they always were saying and always were doing, and now they're just and they think that they're just more truthful. You
yeah,
know?
exactly. And like just wrapping things up, 'cause we've been going for nearly an hour. It does not feel like that. Um, like I feel like the message of this episode is like like especially with commentary, right? Is that like do your research, right? Because like commentators are definitely like held at like a pretty high standard of the fact that like a lot of people get their knowledge and people use commentary YouTubers for their own research now, right?
Yeah,
When making their own videos about stuff. So, get your information right, like understand as well that like, putting personality into things and not like, always going like to that sidemen level of Mr. Beast level, right? Isn't a bad thing. But it also isn't like a, inherently good thing, right? It just depends down based on the creator, right? Like we
yeah.
said, like for you, for example, I can never see you, like especially now having the conversation we've had, like going on to that like Pyro Live level, right, where you're handing off like a lot of the stuff to other people. But like that's not inherently a
Yeah,
bad
I
thing.
don't
That's
think like
down to you.
that's just what I would enjoy. Like I always think live streams are fun and all that,
Yeah,
but it's like I really do get my joy from like making the video.
yeah. Like you want that like a little bit more control over the stuff you do, right? Like you actually sitting there and like recording the stuff, like doing the stuff right there, like that's what you get joy from at the end of the day, right? Like some people it's editing, some people it's the voice lines or whatever. Like like do the stuff that makes you happy and makes the best possible content.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Like to me it's like as long as I'm able to do my thing and we're paying bills or whatever, like to me I'm happy, man.
yeah, exactly. And on that note, man, I really do appreciate you coming on Trash Talk for about 50 minutes, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on, man.
You know,
So
and for
what's with you?
everyone,
What do you want to grow into? Do you want to do commentary forever? Or?
well, like, I feel like I'm in a very similar boat to you, right? Is that I really enjoy doing what I'm doing, and like, even if I lost all like my subscribers or whatever on my main channels and like my other channels and projects, is that I'd still be doing it because I'm very passionate about the stuff I do. I like reporting on stuff on Twitter or whatever, like posting about it. I love doing that stuff, and of course I'd love to like grow to an extent where it's like, I might have a couple of people hired, but I love like putting a lot more personality and like individuality into my content, like rather than having it more commercialized. And like that isn't like a
Yeah.
gripe at anybody that does that, because like I respect that. But for me personally, I love just having a lot more personality out there, because at the end of the day with commentary, it's like foundation
Well, it's
is,
not only
yeah,
just that we're commentary, it's social media. Like the whole point
yeah,
is connecting with people. So I
yeah,
totally get you, dude. I'm the same way.
and that's why I also love doing this podcast, right? Getting like different perspectives, like of people have, right? Like talking to them for like an hour or so, getting to know what they're interested in, or like how they function on YouTube, because like you said, right? That's like personality, right? You want to put your own stuff out there. You want to have like, you want to like make connections. You want to talk to people. You want to do your own thing at the end of the day, right? Well, like on like cable TV or whatever, like it's heavily way more monitored than it is online, right? You want to be able to do
Hmm.
your own thing. That's what I love about talking to people, right? From like different backgrounds, right? Because for you and Tom, for example, right? You and Tom have like way different perceptions and stuff like that, because like the way you make your content is way different, right? Like different processes, a different way that's formulated, and neither are like a bad way to do it, right? That's just your own individual way of doing it. And I like talking to creators and like getting to know like why they do that, and like how they prefer that, and like what they do. Because I think that's interesting, because like on a surface level, you would think that, especially with commentary, most creators do the same thing, but in actuality, like a lot of content creators do look vastly different things.
Yeah. If I were
Um,
to give any advice to a person coming up in commentary, and this probably works
mhm.
in YouTube for YouTube in general,
Yeah.
and there's going to be people that are a lot smarter than me, so don't, you take what you think is worth it. But I would say, and I don't know anything about the algorithms or any of that shit either, right? So there's a million different ways, but my advice would be make 100 videos.
Hmm.
Every video, try and improve on something. And then after a month or two passes, I'd go rewatch your old video and then
Yeah.
see like, hey, what did I do wrong? What could I improve? Why is that guy's video better than my video? Is my video
Yeah.
better than that guy's? And
Hmm.
when you get to a level where you feel like your video is better than, um, or I would say not necessarily better, but up to that same level of quality, uh,
Yeah.
then I would say like then you could focus on like getting into a rhythm and making like routinely posted content.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Like you almost want that like level of self-reflection, right? Of like being able to take a look back and going, right, like I'm really happy with what I did here. I'm also happy with what I did here.
Yeah, when
Like
you
taking
start, it
those
should be
elements.
like a fun like hobby. Like you're learning
Yeah.
how to do it the same way you'd learn an instrument or learn to craft, do pottery or anything.
Yeah, right. Could you end up adapting, right? Taking bits that you really enjoy doing there, if it's the comedy, the editing, or like something you did there, right? Like, I'm gonna take a Family Guy thing, like a Family Guy little gag, right? Like, taking like that and then improving on it, like the next thing, right? Taking the things that work for you and making the best possible product that you can do, because I feel like we've all had that video, right, where we've made the best possible video that you think for that time. Then you look back in a couple of months and you go, "Oh, I would have done that differently, whatever." But I think that's
And
a
you're like, dude, that was shit. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, dude. It's my first
and
10 years on YouTube, man.
yeah. Like,
Like
and
I stress like I am no talent when it comes to fucking any of this shit. It's all just been
yeah,
because I never stopped making videos. It's the only
yeah,
reason why
exactly.
it is any good.
Well, like I look at videos that I'm really proud of. Like in the past, like I did an iDubbbz documentary with like Tom in the Anarchist and like a couple of other creators. Like I look back at that and I go, like, at the time I thought that was probably my best video ever, and like I still like it as a a good video, and I think like
Hmm.
it's good in certain aspects. But there are certain things that I would 100% do differently. Like if I wanted to make a big video like that again, I'll take the things that work well and improve on the things that didn't. Right, and that's the mentality you want, is being able to take the good things, like sorting it from the bad and then improving on those bad things and not dwelling on it. And that's how you improve as a content creator.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
And man, I appreciate you coming on for nearly an hour now and just like talking about like YouTube, like how it's changing for you personally as well. So yeah, I do appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Much love.
No worries. And for everybody watching today's episode of Trash Talk, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. I've been your host Samuel, and I will catch you in the next episode of Trash Talk.